After mounting political pressure, the German Chancellor announced this week that 14 Leopard 2 tanks will be supplied to Ukraine. And on Wednesday, President Biden pledged 31 Abrams tanks in a major moment in the war. I spoke to military ethics expert Dr. Marina Miron from King's College London about how these decisions will impact the conflict.
I think it's more of a political decision for Germans and for the British, for that matter, as well. It was a way kind of to open the floodgate, saying that the Challenger 2 tanks will be going to Ukraine. And Germany was somewhat coerced because within Germany, there were a lot of politicians saying that, you want German tanks rolling in Ukraine against the Russians, and we kind of don't want to repeat history. So there was a certain amount of opposition, and other politicians like the Minister of Economy said, we are sending the tanks, the Chancellor has to take the step, and the new defense minister was saying, well, there are a lot of kind of pros and cons, and we have to think about it. So it was quite a difficult decision to take, and everybody was expecting that Germany would cave during the meeting in Ramstein, which didn't happen, to surprise for many NATO nations. And after that, the political pressure just got unbearable. So the Chancellor had to make a statement and at least allow Poland to send Leopards. And of course, then Germany pledged to send a squadron, so 14 Leopards as well. So in a sense, it's all a game of politics to show Putin that, yes, we are behind Ukraine. We will still be supporting Ukraine. But of course, this whole hesitation played into Putin's hands. There is still kind of this unknown in terms of how many batches of those tanks will go to Ukraine and when will they arrive. That's kind of the biggest question, because everybody is now talking about this huge counteroffensive that Russia is planning, and Ukraine is asking for these tanks, but it's not like, the decision is taken today and tomorrow these tanks are there. No. And that's a problem. And, some estimates say that mid-April is kind of the earliest possible time when those tanks would get there. For instance, the German Rheinmetall said that, they had some tanks which would be available by 2024. So it just takes a long time. And the question is, can the Ukrainian armed forces wait so long until those tanks arrive? And then we have another problem. They will be using a technology that is new, so they will have to get used to that technology despite the training. It will be the first time them using that technology. And another question is, the line of contact is quite long on the battlefield. So where do you want to put those tanks? You have, say, 2 squadrons of tanks. Do you know exactly where the Russians will strike? And that will depend on Ukrainian intelligence services, assuming that the Russians will wait till the tanks come there to strike, right? And allows them to make the necessary preparations. And another thing with the tanks is that they are designed to be a part of the system, meaning that they will need infantry fighting vehicles. So you would want to have mechanized infantry, and you would want to have air support in order for the whole system to function, to be as effective as possible.
This week, Russia's Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, criticised the West for its support of Ukraine, saying the conflict had almost become a real war, sparking concern over how Russia could respond.
I think that the Russians might be escalating this war, both in terms of its military and in terms of the ongoing covert operations that they have been conducting, as well as aggressive foreign policy. So I don't think we have to limit ourselves only to the military domain here. Obviously, we're seeing an increased amount of strikes on civilian infrastructure, so that's continuing. The other thing is they might be able to mobilize more people to send to Ukraine in order to reach their military objectives before the tanks arrive. So there is another possibility that they will intensify their offensives and try to capture the territory in order to liberate Donbass. And, we have to see it from the Russian perspective. For them, it's Russian territory. And basically, because it's Russian territory, Putin has a carte blanche to say, well, we need more people, we need more tanks there, and we need aircraft. So he doesn't have to look for a justification to send in more troops. And that gives General Gerasimov, who's now in charge of the operation, much more kind of liberty in terms of operational planning and how he wants to conduct the whole operation. And we also know that General Gerasimov, who replaced General Surovikin, is a very experienced military planner, and he's been known to be quite successful. And apparently, General Zaluzhny is a big fan of, what General Gerasimov used to write. So he's well respected in Ukraine to a certain degree as well. So that's kind of the one thing. The other thing is that Russia is trying to use its economic and diplomatic tools, basically, on the one hand, to ensure that it gets the allies and the support it needs, such as Turkey, for instance, China, India, and the Middle Eastern countries.
These tanks are set to bolster Ukraine's defences, but there has been speculation over where the line will be drawn when it comes to the West's support of Ukraine.
What is going to be next? Is it going to be helicopters, fighter jets, or maybe NATO soldiers, And so there is this big question. On the one hand, we're all waiting to see what Russia does, and certainly there will be a lot of rhetoric about nuclear weapons and it being nuclear power. As a matter of fact, Peskov, the spokesman for the Russian government, he said a couple of days ago that and nuclear power never loses a war. Right? So there is this kind of rhetoric resurfacing again that, Russia might be using its nuclear sword to kind of scare the European countries and say, well, here is the line. On the other hand, again, if those requests come in, it depends, because let's say sending aircraft is much more difficult, training pilots. And, same as with tanks, you also have that risk that the enemy will be able to recover that technology and reverse engineer it. So if Russians get their hands on say, Leopards or Challenger 2, that would be bad, because the Challenger 3 that the UK army will be getting is based on Challenger 2. And so you would have to completely redesign the Challenger 3 as not to mimic Challenger 2, just to make sure, because it is a threat to national security, essentially. So you have to have a lot of trust. And with aircraft, it's even more problematic, because it's much more sophisticated in terms of its capabilities. And you obviously wouldn't want to lose your pilots. And, Russians have their air defenses set up. We don't know how well they work, but you don't want to find out. And that's a kind of the thing we had in Syria when the Russian Air Force was operating in one part, the US was operating in the other part, and there was constant deconfliction going on because of the Russian air defense systems. And, they did shoot something. So you don't kind of want that sort of escalation. And then there will be a reason for Putin to say, well, this is an all-out war. We're at war with NATO. Well, let's just pull out our tactical nukes. Why not? We're facing the West. So there could be this huge escalation. And I think on part of NATO, they don't want that. And they don't want to be dragged into the war.
These tanks are expected to take months to arrive. And while Ukraine welcomes the support, time is of the essence. Simon Banks, The Sun.